And a very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Issues and Attitudes. My name is Jeff Owens, WEIU General Manager. Our guest today is the new president of Eastern Illinois University, Dr. Jay Gatrell. Welcome, sir.
Well, thanks. It's great to be here. I always enjoy doing this show and chatting with you about activities across campus.
We're excited to have you in on this Monday. You've been in office, I guess, for just a few weeks, but
a few days.
Yeah, really.
I wouldn't say weeks.
Yeah. This show, we always like to go behind the scenes, and one of my things I wanted to talk about before we get into maybe some details about what's going on campus is kind of the transition into the office, and how does that take place, and what goes on, and kind of what you've been doing for these first 10 days of July.
Well, that transition is, it's sort of linked to the calendar. Obviously, it ends at the fiscal year and starts July 1st. And, there's nothing necessarily magical about it. As I've learned over the last week or so, it's much harder to change our IT systems and approval processes. So we've been doing a lot of behind-the-scenes computer stuff, everything from travel authorizations to PARs, and that's sort of insider lingo. But there's lots of initiatives going on that are requiring us to, just change everything from the president's email. So there's a lot of sort of employee activity and initiative and effort that goes into this sort of the mechanics of a transfer. There's sort of the mechanics of a transfer, but then there's sort of the leadership transfer. And over the past few months, I've been working with my predecessor, David Glassman, on sort of becoming aware of sort of the issues and frameworks and challenges as well as opportunities that are facing the institution. And he was gracious to provide me with those insights. And I've worked with the board. The board has been incredible throughout this transition, and I certainly appreciate their support and attention to detail. So, it's that transition is still ongoing, by the time we hit fall, I think we'll have all the email correct and all the approvals. So, but it's been a bit of a whirlwind with it starting on a Saturday, and then of course having a holiday in the middle of that week.
It is kind of nice that when you take over July 1st, and then you don't have, then the semester doesn't start till August, so you do have that 6-7 week window to try to get all your ducks in a row and prepared and everything like that, I assume.
It is, and I've had the opportunities, since February to sort of meet some of our critical university supporters, not only here across East Central Illinois, but I had the opportunity to meet donors in Springfield as well as General Assembly members and engage in that work both from an introductory perspective, but also introducing them to me in my new role. So that has been exciting, meeting all sorts of new people, but also reintroducing myself in this new role as president of EIU.
One of the things you've always done since I met you and you've been here is you've been very visible in the community, being on boards and running and all the things you do. Do you still get to do most of that as the president, or will that have to be limited a little bit because you'll have other duties as here at EIU?
Well, there's a lot of pressures on your time, and I think that time management piece is something I'm ramping up for. But I can tell you that my ability to sort of run, my mileage has gone down, and so it is a challenge fitting it all in. But I spent last year as the president of Rotary, and that Rotary year ended last year. I have a board meeting tomorrow with Rotary, so I really look forward to doing those things in the community, because I think connecting with and being part of the community and that you live and serve is really critical. That community piece is what I think makes Eastern special. Our connection to not only Charleston and Coles County, but really the entire East Central Illinois region is something that I take a great amount of pride in, and I know our faculty do as well as our students. That connectedness to the region and making a difference.
What do you do initially in terms of setting up initial goals or plans as we head into this fall semester? Well,
last year, I assume you're aware, we were actually engaged in a strategic planning process from March 2022. So that process brought together stakeholders from within the community and across the community to engage in identifying strategic priorities and initiatives to implement over the next few years. That process included surveys of the community, high school principals, superintendents, industry leaders across the region, as well as our own stakeholders here on campus, faculty, students, staff, and administrators. And that process resulted in a fine-tuning and an iterative process that had town halls, focus groups, and a number of other initiatives over the course of the year that resulted in a plan that was approved and affirmed by the Board of Trustees at our June meeting. That plan, known as Plan 2028, focuses on 4 core themes. Making sure all students achieve and investing in the resources and the practices to make that commitment a reality for every learner. Creating a 21st century campus and culture that reflects our values and our mission. Everything from what are our facilities looking like on the ground to what are our HR policies and how do we demonstrate and invest in our all employee groups. Engaging is another theme. How do we engage the community, the world, in the state of Illinois and make a difference? Everything from study abroad to recruiting and retaining outstanding international students to increased volunteerism across the region. And then that final piece, as VP Bierman, our business affairs VP, reminds me we have to pay for all this stuff. So there's a sustainability element there and a viability. So how do we resource, identify through strategic enrollment management and budget practices a framework that allows us to invest in these strategic initiatives, but also be mindful of the inherent sort of reality that we have to limit spending to our revenues. Because we're in a higher ed's shifting, it's a changing environment, and we have to be willing to create budget frameworks that equal our revenues. And so that means strategic investments and strategic prioritization of everything from operations to one-time dollars to long-term initiatives.
And when you implement a strategic plan like that, I mean, is it one of the things, like every department, will they get like an assignment list, or how does it actually take effect through the university? How does that work?
Well, there's about 30 individual initiatives in those 4 theme areas, and all of them have metrics assigned to them. And they're aspirational goals, like increase the percentage of students participating in first-year learning communities. Those sort of metrics are something we're going to revisit every year. We have a strategic enrollment management plan that's been around for a few years that has enrollment targets for graduate students, international students, as well as first-time, full-time, and transfer students, and hold ourselves accountable and say what's working, what's not. Strategic plans have to be dynamic. They have to evolve over time, and there has to be flexibility for the initiatives themselves to change, but for priorities to shift over time, because resources are going to shift, and pinch points, if you will, and everyday operations are going to change realities. We just had a windstorm, right? That's going to take an investment, a time, effort, and we need to make sure that our community is safe, people are safe, the grounds are safe and well maintained. So, we're going to, from time to time, have to pivot, but we're going to have an annual process outlined at our fall update in the fall that'll sort of tell us what direction we're going. Each area has a champion, actually 2 champions for each area, each theme, and each individual initiative of those 30-some initiatives has a responsible party or office that will take the lead on collecting the data and reporting out annually in the spring.
What do you see the biggest challenges when you implement a strategic plan like this?
It's holding ourselves accountable. It's one thing to sort of create a framework and have it all glossy with the EIU branding, but how do you enliven that and make sure that every day your decisions and policies are being guided by those objectives at the macro level, but also the values. Strategic plan allows you to advance your mission in a framework that hopefully reflects our shared values as a community. And that's a campus community as well as the broader community on the other side of Lincoln.
We're talking to Dr. Jay Gatrell today, the new president of Eastern Illinois University. One of the things I also want to talk about is you've got to get the EIU employee buy-in at all levels. Everybody knows there's been labor issues last year, but it's as we move forward and think about the buy-in, how do you, Dr. Gatrell, get everyone to say, hey, I'm ready for a little change, I'm ready to do things differently? Because it's probably one of the toughest things is to get people to change.
Well, it is a challenge, but the great thing about our strategic planning process that began, more than a year ago, is that we had 20 plus individuals on that strategic planning task force. We had literally hundreds of employees come participate either in the surveys or attend the town halls. We had town halls in the fall, we had them in the spring. So every step of this process, we have allowed and permitted and encouraged and really advocated for everybody to participate in identifying those initiatives. We probably had 45 to 50 initiatives at one point, and they were pared down and refined and intentionally refined to reflect what made sense, what was doable, and what was a stretch goal. It's important for a strategic plan to be, in some ways, audacious, right?
Yeah,
and
I like that
to,
word,
to
yeah.
have that sort of stretch opportunity, because that's how organizations grow. And strategic planning is really about a process of continuous improvement and holding ourselves accountable for our mission and our values and our priorities. So, we really wanted to do this a few years ago. COVID got in the way. And as we enter into our reaffirmation process with the Higher Learning Commission in 2024, it is really essential that our budget practices and decision making are linked explicitly and intentionally to a strategic sort of map.
Speaking of budget, how are everything set right now at EIU and in the state?
Well, I feel really good. The General Assembly and has been incredibly gracious and wonderful to us. We had a significant increase this year. We're looking at enrollment being very positive in the fall. We still don't know where we're going to land with international student recruitment. That's always sort of a question mark. But there's lots of really good indicators. To have some of the largest number of undergraduate international students we had. Our first-time full-time domestic students are on par for next year. And I feel really good. I mean, I'm hesitant to give you a number.
Come on, everybody wants a number.
Everybody wants a
Fall
number.
enrollment number.
But all the indicators are positive. And I think it's to the good. We're on the rebound. Our trajectory is positive. And I think our value proposition for learners is one that is gaining traction. It's understandable because we deliver. We deliver on our commitment to every student to make sure they are successful.
Ever since I've met you, you've always talked about the student's learning experience, and that's what you always tell me if there's something going on. Jeff, what's the benefit to the student? Talk about that to the community a little bit about why that's just kind of, I won't say your thing, but one of your things.
Well, I believe that if learners connect with faculty, if they connect with staff, their peers, and engage in activities that provide meaning to the curriculum, that provide meaning to the coursework, they're going to connect with one another, and they're going to stay and be retained. We've all had general education courses, and we can all talk about sort of what that experience was for us. But it's critical that we create the linkage between faculty and student, and student to student, and student and community in a way that makes learning real. That provides that concrete experience for every learner. We've always done it in teacher ed. Teacher ed has always had early field experiences and student teaching. Yeah. How do we take that same framework so every academic major across the university provides a student with a hands-on, engaged, real-world learning experience? That's one of the reasons we're exploring new degree programs. Last year, the faculty through CAA approved a new degree type, the Bachelor's of Applied Arts and Sciences. That new degree type, which is growing in popularity across the United States, is one that will allow us to do some creative experiences around internships, around portfolios in the senior year, and I anticipate some new program proposals coming forward in that degree type. It'll also provide us with pathways to enhance 2+2. And provide new frameworks for in-service working professionals who have some college to complete a degree in a shorter sort of term, and also recognize that the work they're doing now could, if aligned with learning goals as articulated by faculty in the curriculum, also permit them to earn credit where appropriate.
Okay. I want to go back to February 6th. At some point that day, or maybe the day before, when you found out you were going to be the president, can you take us back to that initial feeling when you knew?
Well, it was. It's a funny story. So
February 6th was the date that was announced. That's why I said that.
Yeah, that wasn't the day I found out. It was a weird week. Because we got to set up all that. But I remember receiving a phone call from the board chair. And invited to a meeting, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I was supposed to go bowling. I'm in the faculty bowling league, and So I am dressed to go bowling.
That's
and
awesome.
So, I immediately figured, well, they don't want to see me in a sweatshirt. And no matter what the news is, I want to. So I ran home, got ready, shaved for the second time that day, and learned that I had the opportunity of a lifetime, the opportunity to serve and lead at Eastern Illinois University. The real challenge was keeping it secret over the week. But I felt truly blessed and honored and privileged to be given the opportunity to serve in this role. And it was an exciting day. It was hard to, the kids, it was a whole family thing, right?
Yeah.
I remember, sharing it with my kids and then also sharing it with my dad.
And told him to be quiet, right?
And my dad, sorry,
That's okay.
it was special to share with him. I'm a first generation college graduate, and for him to be there, and I wish my mom could have been there at the announcement. But it was a special day, and it's something, a privilege that I can't describe, to have the opportunity to lead, because there's responsibility, but there's also something bigger, right? There's a mission, and if you think about what this place has meant to so many people, and their lives and their families and the extraordinary lives they've gone on to. I want to make sure every learner has that opportunity. I wouldn't have ever guessed I'd be sitting here today with you. And so, and it happened at a regional comprehensive university, just like Eastern Illinois.
Did you dream about being a president of a university at some point in your life, or is it just one of those that was just become your guidepost there?
It emerges, right? I think leadership opportunities emerge. You want to be, I would never have, even 10 years ago, I wouldn't have said I'd be sitting in this role. I had a wonderful job as a chief research officer and a grad dean. I loved it. I loved coming to work every day. Actually, that would have been, I guess, 12 years ago. I just never saw, this as a possibility because so few people get the opportunity to lead extraordinary organizations and institutions like EIU. But it emerges, right? Through, so no, I don't think I would have ever envisioned this. I would never have said to my mom and dad when I came home from Thanksgiving and said I'm going to be a geographer. I don't. I'm going to go to grad school for geography. That this is where I was going to be. I really thought I was just going to do what I got normal, right? Go out and get a job. I just sort of, it's been exciting. I would never have foreseen this, and it's been a true blessing.
There you go. What about the community response so far? Your friends in the community and your cohorts out there, what do they say? About you being the president and all this?
Well, it's, I don't know. I'd have to ask them. I think, it's, I think that I have a lot of colleagues and friends who've been just generous of their time, provided me with insights on their experiences. I've met a large number, an increasing number of annuitants and retirees who've shared with me their stories. And so I've really had the opportunity to learn a lot about EIU's history and Coles County. And so I think from a community perspective, I want to thank everybody who has been so kind and generous to not only myself but also my family over the past few months, because it is you're preparing yourself for this new role, and I would like to believe it's been positive. You just never know, right? But
we're still young, but yeah,
that's right. We're only 7 days in or whatever, so.
No, let's just say let's go into the future. There is an issue that comes up, or I hate the word problem, but there's something that arises. Do you have a mentor in the community, and not Dr. Glassman because that's the obvious one? Is there a mentor you can call or confide in and get advice? Maybe somebody who's taught you in the past or worked with in the past.
Well, I've been very blessed. I had in 2012-13, I had the opportunity to serve as an ACE fellow, American Council on Education fellow, where I spent some time at various other campuses to learn about from other leaders. It's actually one of the way I ended up at Bellarmine University before I came here. And so I have, over the years, developed really, I think, valuable and important relationships with folks who now are presidents, who are provosts, and I've been very sort of lucky to call them not only friends but mentors. And so, I think the short answer is yes. There's a network of folks
That's good.
who I can talk to, because you never know what's going to be on the windscreen, right, or down the road. So you have to be open to developing those relationships and those networks, because no person has, all the data they need to make a decision. So it's important to sort of get feedback from folks at all sort of levels of the organization, but also have mentors to have that conversation sort of in confidence. But I think there are a number of folks who I can point to who are on the phone, and luckily they take my call still.
That's good.
But I don't think any of us in leadership roles, from the dean's level, the associate deans, can be successful if we don't have a network of colleagues who we care about and trust, and who care about and trust us.
Yep, I agree. How important is a successful athletics program to EIU?
Athletics is critical. We have about 500 student athletes who would not be in Charleston, Illinois, if they couldn't compete at the Division I level. So I think that's something we have to sort of celebrate, acknowledge, and intentionally and strategically invest in. So athletics is obviously a part of our enrollment management plan. It's part of, without Division I athletics, what is tied to that? We have a pep band. We have any number of other organizations that are, the Panther Marching Band. All these sort of opportunities that are learning opportunities for students that are critical degrees of social connectedness between learners that, athletics are so central to. Athletics is central to the learning of our students in the School of Communication and Journalism. I know they're the ones who get it done in terms of working with ESPN 3 and all that stuff. So,
ESPN.com now. Yeah.
And so all these experiences connect to, extend out of, and complement our NCAA Division I sort of framework.
Yeah.
So I think athletics is critical. And plus it's our front door. I've met so many people in the community just by walking around the stands at O'Brien or visiting a track meet, or even, it also provides us the facilities to host a state track meet.
Yep.
And all those other sort of economic development opportunities and drivers.
Yeah. And I think the good news last year, the way baseball and softball ended, even though they didn't win everything, but they advanced to the next level, which was good. And I just heard last week when Mr. Moser stopped by, and Eastern's going to have the brand new logo will be on the football field in the fall, which is kind of breaking news around here. That's going to be awesome to look at.
Yes, the turf's being installed.
Yep.
And so hopefully in not too long you'll be able to go out there and.
Are you taking credit for that?
No, no. That was. There were lots of tremendous supporters of athletics and donors across the region and the community that made the difference. And the leadership of Tom Michael and his team can't be understated. That was a multi-year initiative, and I know that Coach Wilkerson also was engaged in that activity. So, and we couldn't do it without the facilities folks.
Yeah.
This is a huge, heavy lift from facilities. Facilities is allowing us. They do a lot of. They make it happen, right?
Yeah.
So this is a all enterprise initiative that is really a multi-year initiative.
Okay. As I want to go back a little bit, we're talking to Dr. Jay Gatrell, the new EIU president. What kind of led you to, you knew you wanted to go into higher education? Was there a pivotal point in your life that said, I think I want to do that?
I had a professor in my master's program who said, you should think about this. You seem to thrive in this environment of higher ed. You seem to be curious. And you like writing, which is not always uniformly held sort of desire. So I did enjoy and still do enjoy writing. So he said, look at PhD programs.
Yep.
And so that was something that just never occurred to me. I rarely even knew that you could go to grad school, right, at 18 years old. So the opportunity to do a PhD program was something that he sort of presented to me. And really, to be honest, I wouldn't have gone to a master's program had a undergraduate faculty member, mentor not said, you might want to consider going to graduate school, because he's the one who told me what graduate school was, what a graduate assistantship was. And so at every step of my career, I've had someone who could say, maybe this is something you should try. And so that faculty mentoring relationship has been critical for me. And I think everybody can point to that one faculty member, whether it was, in high school or an undergrad or graduate school, that made a difference to where they are today. And those relationships are the things that I want to contribute to the development of and foster and extend.
Good answer there. Dr. Calvin Smith was mine. I think of it, he's former Eastern professor. He was kind of my idol there growing out here. Do you reserve time each week to kind of just get away from it all so you can do some like personal critical thinking as you take this step as being the president?
Well, I get to work pretty early.
You are early.
So I try to get to work between 6:15 and 6:30 sometimes. If everyone knows I go to Starbucks, so I mean it's an open secret. So I'm at Starbucks in the morning, and sometimes I end up talking to folks. So I'm in that window there. But when I come in, the first thing I do is I read the Chronicle. I read Inside Higher Ed, the Chronicle of Higher Education. That's sort of inside baseball. So the Chronicle of Higher Education, and I read Inside Higher Ed, and I try to get a sense of what are the issues impacting institutions today. And then I try to, I read a book by the new NCAA president called Results. Talked about his experience as a governor out east. So, I do try to take some intentional time daily to sort of just figure out what's out there, and then also to sort of learn about ways to sort of think about organizations and how they function, and also how I might be able to understand organizations and bureaucracies, because universities are bureaucratic, and how can we develop relationships that allow us to advance sort of mission and values. So I would say I try every day to do it. I also try to, my vacations oddly tend to involve a book like Results. And then the other piece I would say is, once a year, I try to just take a day and just do geography and read abstracts from the sort of major journals, just to sort of familiarize myself with sort of what's going on out there just for myself.
We only have a little over a minute left with Dr. Jay Gatrell today. What about, is there any critical job openings at EIU that you'd like to get, make sure we get announced today that you would like to get hired sometime soon?
Well, there's lots of positions that are in HR, and they'll post as soon as possible. I think, obviously, we have some priorities around advising. I think we have priorities in compliance areas. So there are opportunities out there, and they'll be forthcoming.
Okay. Got a minute left. If there's anything else that we didn't discuss that you would like to address the community with? We have 45 seconds.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. I love this show. I love that it's community facing.
Yep.
And I truly appreciate your passion, because I don't think there's any better unit on campus for engaging students in sort of WEIU, whether it's the radio side of the house or the TV side of the house, or some of your podcast stuff you all have been doing. You all are exemplars of what engaged real-world learning is about, and I want to thank you.
I appreciate the kind words, and it would be weird not emailing you as the vice president, and now you are the boss, and we appreciate it so much, and we appreciate your support at WEIU.
Just remember to say Jay. Say Jay.
There you go. Well, that is Dr. Jay Gatrell, everybody. Hope you had a great day. We'll be back next week right here on Issues and Attitudes. We are WEIU.